Hello, I hope you're doing fine. I'm also okay. As you know, Justin Muturi has been relieved of his duties as the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service and Performance. Now, in this video, I will try to answer the question, did Muturi get what he really wanted, or did Ruto outplay him? Was he caught flat-footed? If that is something you are interested in, continue watching. And of course, if you're watching for the first time, take a moment, subscribe to the channel so that when we produce videos of this nature, you are notified. I did a video telling you why Muturi wanted to be fired. If you did not watch that, I have linked it here. In that video, I shared the brief history of who Muturi is and why he actually joined Kenya Kwanza last minute and what his expectations were. Like I said, if you didn't watch it, I've linked that video in the description too. The question that we are answering is, has Muturi actually gotten what he wanted? Because, like I said, he has always done everything for him to be fired. So being fired now, has it played out the way he wanted, or has things gone the different path? What did he want? Muturi wanted to use his sacking for political purposes. Either one, to go and vie for Embu governorship, considering that he feels that Cecil's continued support for William Ruto in a region that somehow has abandoned the president gives him a chance to win the election should he vie against Cecil come 2027. Another option was, since Rigathi Gachagua cannot vie, having been impeached, he wanted to be the official face of Rigathi Gachagua. In fact, Muturi even hoped that his party, the DP party, was supposed to be Rigathi's party, the party that Rigathi was going to endorse and make a Mount Kenya official party. Well, things have not worked for him so well, because even though Muturi even wrote to the registrar of parties, informing them of the desire to remove DP from the Kenya Kwanza coalition, Rigathi has not embraced DP. In fact, even Martha Karua thought that her party, People's Liberation Party, that is after changing its name from Kenya, was going to be Rigathi's party. But like I told you, there is no way Rigathi Gachagua is going to join a party that he does not have full control of. He will start his own party. And the reason as to why he's doing this has nothing to do with having a Mount Kenya party. The reason as to why individuals want regional parties is to cash in during nominations. You see, if Rigathi becomes popular to the point that even in 2027 he has a say in the elections in Mount Kenya, in who is elected in Mount Kenya, then if he has his own political party, people, aspirants, will try their level best, will scramble for the tickets of Rigathi's party. Because it would be like how ODM is in Luo Nyanza. If you have an ODM certificate, it's the same as getting elected. So that is what Rigathi wants. He wants a party that he controls so that he can make money out of it. Because if he goes to Muturi's party, Muturi will still be the party leader and will have a lot of sway. If he goes to Kalonzo's party, of course, the same applies, and even Martha. So chances are that Rigathi will have his own party. This works against Muturi's expectation that DP was going to be embraced as the party of Mount Kenya. I cannot rule that out, but from the look of things, it seems Rigathi is not so much interested in supporting, in embracing the DP as the party. So one area that Muturi failed was the belief that his party DP was going to be embraced as the political party of the region by none other than Rigathi and others. And also his belief that he can be the official face of Rigathi Gachagua. Since Rigathi Gachagua cannot vie, he wanted to be the official face of Rigathi Gachagua. For instance, if there is a deal between Mount Kenya and Kalonzo Musyoka, Mount Kenya will have to produce a running mate. And Muturi was looking at it that if he was the official face of Mount Kenya, then should there be such deals, he is automatically the running mate. That is what his other hope was. Apart from the possibility of vying for Embu gubernatorial seat, Muturi was also looking at he can also be the official face of Rigathi Gachagua and be the guy to be the running mate of whoever Rigathi Gachagua will be supporting. That is still to be seen because we can't rule out that he can be the official face. What I know has happened that has hurt Muturi is that Ruto has fired him at a time when it doesn't matter. You see, there was a time he was criticizing the government, saying the government has failed, the government is kidnapping the people, etc. At that particular time, the narrative of the government kidnapping people was still very active. And if he was fired then, it would have given him the clout he needed to go and establish himself as somebody who has been sacrificed for standing with Kenyans. I want to tell you that Muturi has not gotten what he wanted. His expectation was he gets fired when the abduction narrative was still very active. So he preferred to be fired then because it would have made him some human rights activist who has been relieved of duty because he's standing with the people. That would have given him the clout he needs to launch his bid for either governorship or presidency come 2027. That has not happened because him being fired now, I'm not saying that he cannot revive the abduction story, but even if there is a lot that is happening in the country that people are focused on. For instance, already we have an MOU with ODM. Kenya Kwanza has an MOU with ODM. There are changes that are happening in government. And the focus of the likes of Rigathi for now and its supporters is not about abductions, etc. They are like, how do we get people to join us against William Ruto? And so Muturi might not have the abduction story to ride on. Then two is who Ruto has picked to replace Muturi. You see, Muturi is the party leader of DP, but DP has only one member of parliament. Yes, DP is a parliamentary party, but it has only one member of parliament. And that one member of parliament is none other than Honorable Ruku. This Honorable Ruku is the only, ladies and gentlemen, the only DP sitting MP. Is the only sitting MP from the Democratic Party, the DP, the party that Muturi leads, the party that Muturi is getting out of Kenya Kwanza. Okay? Muturi has already written to the registrar of his intention to withdraw DP from Kenya Kwanza. And what does Ruto do? Ruto picks the only sitting DP member of parliament to replace the DP party leader who is trying to get DP out of Kenya Kwanza. Two, that particular DP MP, Honorable Ruku, is also Muturi's MP. Actually, he got this news when he was in Muturi's village. Yes, when they were doing some projects in Muturi's village, where Muturi was born. So what Ruto has done is what he did with Rigathi. When Rigathi was removed, the thinking was that Ruto was going to bring in somebody outside Mount Kenya. No, he didn't. He brought Kindiki, who is from Mount Kenya and has always been part of Mount Kenya. So now he replaces Muturi not just with any other person from Mount Kenya. He replaces Muturi with his own MP. But two, the only MP that Muturi had in parliament. Meaning, if there will be by-election in Mbeere North, Muturi has to ensure that his party wins that seat again, which will not be very easy, ladies and gentlemen, because that is also the opportunity that the likes of Rigathi might want to test the popularity of their own parties. The party that Rigathi is going to start, that is when he will want to test the popularity of that party. UDA will also try to get that seat. Martha Karua, I am persuaded, will field a candidate there. Wiper will also try to get a seat there. So it will be very competitive, meaning Muturi might end up with a party like that of Martha Karua with no elected member of parliament. And so Ruto has outplayed Muturi in a game he started. Muturi is the one who started all this. Ruto had nothing against him. Remember, Ruto is a man who keeps his word. Contrary to what people want to believe, political arrangements that Ruto has made with people, he always keeps them. That is why Raila, given a chance between Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua, he said that was not even a very difficult choice because William Ruto does not go into negotiations with anything under the table. No cards under the table. He puts all his cards on the table. He tells you, this is what I want. And when he made a deal with Muturi's DP, Muturi brought very little votes. People who voted for Ruto in Mbeere did not vote for Ruto because Muturi was supporting him. But even though Muturi brought very little, William Ruto had a deal with him that he would be made a cabinet minister. And he was made a cabinet minister, even though he was now this guy who they criticized the government he served. William Ruto never fired him. The same thing he did with Rigathi Gachagua. Rigathi Gachagua was very rebellious and did so much, people were like, Ruto should impeach this guy. Thrice MPs tried to impeach Rigathi, thrice. And Ruto would just say no. Why? Because it was like, this guy stood with me when it mattered the most. But there is a point that it reaches that you have to let somebody go, especially when they now start criticizing policies. For instance, Rigathi now started criticizing the bottom-up agenda. The policies that they discuss in cabinet and agree on, Rigathi would come out and criticize the same policies. So at times, you just allow the person to go out there and become an opposition voice if that is what they desire, as opposed to having a member of the cabinet. And remember, cabinet has what we call collective responsibility. So whatever is decided by cabinet binds all the cabinet secretaries. And so you have a case here where somebody is sitting in the meetings with you, he discusses everything with you, you agree, you vote, then they go out there to oppose it. That is what happened also to Muturi. Anything that he was saying, abduction, the president was just quiet. Until now, Muturi started criticizing government policies. Now, when he criticizes government policies and he sits in the cabinet that comes up with these policies, it is only fair that he is left out there so that he can make his own, so that he can have that opposition voice that he so desires. Some people argue that that is not how democracy works. No, that is how democracy works. Democracy is, simply put, the rule by a majority. Okay? That is what democracy is. The people who have numbers decide what is done. And so if you are in a cabinet that decides something, but you are a lone voice, every now and then you disagree with what that cabinet discusses, what that cabinet passes, then it is clear that you don't belong to that cabinet. Either you don't share principles, you don't have anything in common. So the best thing to do is to be outside and criticize that cabinet from outside. I'm not saying that people don't differ, that people cannot hold divergent views. It is very normal. It is the nature of human being to hold divergent views. You may not even agree with what I'm saying here. It is okay. I am not going to start blocking everybody who says something that I don't agree with. No, it is okay to disagree. It is okay to have a different opinion. It is okay to have a divergent view. However, the main goal should be, I differ with your point of view. This is my point of view. You see, that is what divergent view is. You are saying we should do this. I don't think we should do that. My view is we should do it this way. But if you have someone who is waiting for you to make a decision, they're just quiet. They're not saying anything. Once you make a decision and they're seated there, they get out and stand with yours or with your opponents and criticize you. Then that is not a divergent view. That is what we call opposition. And when you are an opposition, you are supposed to be in the opposition. You cannot be part of government and oppose the government that you are part of. I always give people an example of William Ruto when he was the deputy president. He had known that Uhuru Kenyatta has endorsed Raila Odinga. He had known that Uhuru Kenyatta does not support him. His office had been starved of cash. The workers there were not even being paid. He had to service his cars and do everything from his pocket. Yet, when the president told him to go and register for Huduma number, which he didn't believe in, you should know that, go and register for Huduma number, William Ruto went with his entire family to register for that Huduma number. Why? Because when you are in government and you're still serving in that government, you cannot be contradicting government policies. He didn't. He might even have disagreed with how some taxes were done, but he shared how he would have done them. But when it came to voting, there is no day Uhuru Kenyatta took a certain bill to parliament and Ruto marshaled his people or his supporters to fail that bill. No. What he knew is if you're still serving there, even if you're not wanted, even if you are being mistreated, if you're still serving there, you have to be loyal. And so he was. You may debate this, but William Ruto was not seen standing out there castigating policies. He was not seen saying, I don't believe in affordable housing. I don't like universal health cover. I disagree. The Big Four agenda, Ruto never opposed it. In fact, all he said was, we should focus on the Big Four agenda as opposed to focusing on BBI. Because that is now what Uhuru had given priority as opposed to the Big Four agenda. That is the only criticism that came from Ruto. And that is not opposition. That is just having a divergent view of how to do things. For the likes of Rigathi, they were like opposing from within. You are there, you are opposing everything the president is doing. You are second-guessing the president. Whenever he says this, you are against it, something like that. So at the end of the day, it becomes very difficult to continue to work with you. That is what has happened to Muturi. He started now criticizing government policies, and he had to go, ladies and gentlemen. So did he get what he wanted? No, he's been outsmarted by the president. First, the president has fired him when whatever he wanted to ride on no longer matters. Number two, the president has replaced him with the only MP he has. Muturi is now going out of, even if he was to succeed getting out of, even if he was to get out of Kenya Kwanza, is getting out of Kenya Kwanza with a party that does not even have an MP. You get that? So he's been outplayed, and that was coming. William Ruto is not in Muturi's league, politically speaking. I always tell those who underestimate William Ruto that you should not do that at all cost, because when it comes to politics, William Ruto is extremely patient. He can be very patient with you. You can do so much, but when he attacks when it has the most reward. Even when he differed with Uhuru, the last days now that he could now confront Uhuru Kenyatta, he did that after knowing very well that he had the support of Mount Kenya behind him. He knew very well that the MPs were with him. He could not be impeached. And now it was easy to attack Uhuru Kenyatta. Before that, William Ruto persevered it all. He went through all the humiliation and everything and never uttered a single word against President Uhuru. Even when he was called for media interview, something that Rigathi would have used to really badmouth the president, William Ruto would insist that if you wanted to ask questions about Uhuru Kenyatta, you would call him and talk to him. He would not discuss his boss, to quote him. Why was he doing that? Because he is a strategist. He always look at, if I want to attack, let me attack when it is going to have the most effect, not just attacking for the sake of attacking. That is the problem with the likes of Muturi. They are attacking when they don't have a plan B. Because if he knew that he only had one MP, he should have made sure that this MP was loyal to him. But the MP was loyal to the president more than him. Now that he's leaving, he's going to leave the same way Martha Karua is. Nobody in your party. And I don't think Rigathi is also going to take that party. And also, like I've told you, it's going to be very challenging for DP to win the Mbeere North seat. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. What is your opinion? Do you think Muturi outsmarted the president, or you agree with me that on this he was dealt with, politically speaking? Let me know what your views are. Like I said, if you did not watch my video on why Muturi wanted to be fired, here is the video.